Flockers. This is Sarah.
And this is Jenny, and you are listening to Naked with Stuff, a podcast where we
assess the mess with finesse. Welcome, you guys, to episode 9. Episode 9.
You were going to break out in song right now.
I don't know a song that starts with 9, but I almost did.
This is exciting.
Yes.
Because we have decided that 10 episodes is perfect for one season.
Yeah. Or for our first season, at least.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up season 1 is what's happening right
Which is
now.
perfect because, like, school's about to start. Everyone's trying to get back into their, like, routine. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give you guys, like, a couple weeks to get your life in order like we are.
And giving ourselves a break?
Yes. Essentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to come back full force. Super excited.
Episode 10 is going to be hilarious, by the way. I feel like this one, I was trying to think how we could make it funny, but it's kind of serious. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just us going into our...
I'll find a way.
We're pretty amusing. But episode 10, we are going to have our first guest. And it should be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So get comfortable.
With being vulnerable.
We are going to jump into it. What are we talking about today, Sarah?
Okay. Today's podcast is about purity culture. And
dun.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to my episode, I kind of touched on it a little bit.
What episode is that? Episode 3?
Episode 3 is my story, and that is something that I do touch on for like a hot second. But we're going to focus on it solely today and just kind of go into it because it's a big thing that most people don't even realize it's affected them in some sort of way.
Well, and if you don't know what purity culture is, you're like me. You were in the dark for many, many years. And Sarah has kind of opened my eyes to it.
Yeah.
And we've done our homework a little bit, and I'm very fascinated with this topic, actually. So,
Jenny, what are we drinking today? Oh, wait, should I tell everyone the name of the drink?
Yeah, so for our Flocktail Hour this evening, it was actually inspired by another hot Instagrammer, or I don't know, social media person. I don't know what she is.
Well, she
makes cocktails in her bathing suit. So that's our next
She
goal.
is a vibe on so many levels.
We'll link her.
I'm obsessed with her. Her tag is Allyssa in the kitchen. And she has...
She's quite the mixologist.
I could literally watch her TikTok all day and just be so inspired.
Well, and she does it in a bikini. So
she does it in a bikini.
Super
She's like fucking hot. Like, oh my God, I love her. So anyways, our drink was inspired by her strawberry kiwi margarita. So what's in our drink?
Well, what did you name it?
Oh, okay. So today's drink is called Cinderella is Dead. Because of what we're talking about today. So it's about
the innocence is gone.
The innocence
tequila
is gone.
Is here.
The tequila's here. We're being bad bitches. Cheers.
There's everything about this cocktail is pure though. Like
it's so true.
First of all.
Yes, I mean we did pick a good cocktail for our purity culture episode.
Mm-hmm. But I will say, hats off to, is it Allyssa?
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa in the kitchen, because that shit took forever. It is 10 o'clock, 10:15 at night now. We spent an hour making our cocktail. You can see our podcast room right now. It's a shit show.
Looks like witches were in here brewing away. But yeah.
Sunday we were like, let's test it out. And my cousin was here, like a little barbecue, and was like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like, can't you just drink alcohol like normal humans?
And I wanted to be like, listen, no, I'm not normal.
Everything is a vibe with us, so this is... And that cocktail is horrible. I'm really glad we practiced.
Oh my God. Well, okay, so we practiced, and now we've perfected it. So what's in this?
Muddled up strawberries.
Which we let sit for like 3 days.
Okay, yeah, let's start with the honey. So Sunday, we put organic wild orange honey, and we cut up some jalapenos and put them inside this cute little thing that I stole from First Watch.
Is that like a decanter? Is that what you call it? Okay.
I have like a klepto problem. If I see something I like, I take it.
You take coffee beans.
Watch out. Silverware. Okay, we put jalapenos and we let it sit for 3 days. So it made like a spicy honey, or we're gonna call it
so good.
Our jalapeno honey. Our poppin' honey is so fucking delicious. So it's sweet and spicy. We use that as like our, almost like our simple, like our sweet, but we also did use agave. We muddled up strawberries. We let those sit in the fridge. They juiced for 3 days. We muddled up fresh kiwis. We fresh squeezed lime juice.
Like everything was just fresh.
This is all juice.
Literally
fresh.
All fresh. And honestly, it's so fucking
highly
good.
recommend. Yeah. Then we did a little bit of agave, shook it up, strained it, threw 2 shots of tequila in there, tahined the rim.
Yes.
So we have all kinds of like sweet, spicy, but not over the top on any of them. It's like perfectly well balanced.
It really is. I'm proud of us.
You're drinking faster than me, which is a first time in America.
I know. I'm like, damn it, I gotta slow down.
I'm so proud of you right now.
I mean, we do have more. I could make more if I wanted to.
That's gonna be another hour, but highly recommend it. Allyssa in the kitchen, you're a bad bitch.
Yes, thank you.
Props.
We love you. Do you guys know what time it is?
I know what time it is. Would you rather time?
It's that time for Would You Rather. And we've got some pretty funny ones today.
Well, of course, mine is purity culture related.
Well, mine is kind of too. Do you want to go first today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go first today.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Ooh.
Okay.
So I picked a wedding edition, Would You Rather?
Ooh, okay.
Because I thought this was, when I was reading about the purity culture stuff, I was like, oh, wow, weddings are super important.
Yes.
Gosh, there's so many good ones. Okay. Oh, Jesus, Lord. You go first.
Okay. Would you rather... Hold on, where did mine go?
Guys, sorry, we're failing the tequila.
Would you rather be a nun for a week and live in it's not a monastery, but whatever the fuck they live in.
A place where you don't have sex.
Okay. Or would you rather just wing it and be an exotic dancer for a week?
Exotic dancer, for sure.
Yeah. Like, even if I made
100.
Even if I made a fucking fool out of myself, like...
I can't dance for shit, but I'm trying to dance around naked, not be a nun.
I would definitely do my best, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters, and that would be the end of that career. But yeah.
Okay, are you ready? Would you rather have your partner forget their vows during your wedding?
Oh my God.
Or say the wrong name?
That's like the Friends episode where he's like, what are you talking about? He says Rachel when he gets married. Ross.
No,
yes. You've seen that?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but I was probably stoned.
When he does that, yeah. Okay, so, and it's like the big, thing in that. But okay.
Yeah, like if you're getting married and your partner just has no vows to say.
I would literally just be okay with that. I'd be like, if my, boyfriend was like, if Patrick was like, oh, I you know what, I'm just gonna wing it. I'd be like,
speechless.
Okay, just wing it, babe. But if he literally said one of his ex's names, I would fucking die. I would literally
walk out of the altar.
Walk out like I'm gone.
Okay, I want to do one more. Ready? Would you rather at your wedding someone else show up to your wedding in a white dress, or someone else get proposed to at your wedding?
I would rather someone get proposed to at my wedding. Just don't tell me. Like, let it happen, but, like, just don't tell me.
I don't think that's respectful at all. Like, they're just stealing your thunder.
I know. But if you're fucking wearing white at my wedding...
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
We're going to have words. But if you get engaged at my wedding, I'll be
No. They won't even... They will have changed. You'll have never even seen this person at your wedding. If you have a good bride's team,
True.
You won't even have to deal with that.
The bride squad.
Whole bottle of wine just spilt on your
you have to leave.
Dress.
I'm so
That's
sorry.
So funny. I don't think that there's anything else for you to wear. You have to leave. Goodbye.
You have to go.
So today, we are talking about purity culture, which I learned a lot about from Sarah. So why don't you tell our followers, which we have avid followers and listeners now, what purity culture is exactly? What is it all about? What's the definition of it?
Yes. So there's a lot of ways to
people who grew up like me and don't know what's going on.
Right. There's a lot of ways to define purity culture, but the best one I found, and we'll link everything. Purity culture is something that has to be known as a subculture of evangelical Christian culture. So it's stemmed from that, and it emphasizes strict gender roles and norms, abstinence, and modesty. The basic teachings differ for males and females in some ways, although the overall message is abstinence only until marriage. And beliefs in this are the whole true love waits culture, which includes things like modest is hottest. Virginity is the most important factor in purity culture.
Okay, that's what I was reading, and the thing that stood out to me the most was it's like pussy on a pedestal. Your vagina and your virginity is the most important thing.
It's of the highest value. That's where you find your value.
Okay, I get that. You have pussy power, but this is abuse in a whole nother way, psychologically, emotionally.
Right.
What if you want to have sex? That's bad.
Well,
then or if you do, then you're tainted. Then you're garbage.
Right. And another big thing is this culture is it reinforces the stereotype gender roles in marriage. Think of 50s, things like that. And
you can't even explore your sexuality.
No, and it makes women out to be responsible basically they're the gatekeepers. Women are gatekeepers while men are simply out of control of their sex drive. That's the main gist of purity culture. And we will just go into all of the problems here. So people who are not familiar, if you're listening and you're not familiar with purity culture, you may not even realize that you've been influenced in some way growing up or even to this day in society, the society we live in today. It can range from the abstinence-only education that they have taught in public schools, especially in the 90s when the 80s, remember the AIDS was a big thing. So
it comes, when I was listening to that podcast you sent me, which we can link, it comes down, again, it's a political push. And it was just this whole thing of these men sitting around a table being this is how we're going to get votes, pushing abstinence, pushing this. But was it really preventing sex, STDs?
Right. So we were coming off of the 80s where AIDS became basically a big pandemic. And so the 90s, it was a big push for the abstinence-only education. Another way that it's been, infiltrated into society today is within the public school system, not only with the abstinence education, but then also with dress codes. So how no spaghetti straps, no really short shorts, things like that, where that's become a normal thing, with public school system. So you may not realize it, but it is something that has been pushed in society, even though it may not come across as religious.
We get it. Boobies are distracting. Especially big boobies. And when you're in high school, that shit's distracting. But that is why you teach about it and not just be like, don't look at him, don't touch him.
Yeah.
That's just like a little toddler. If I told my 4-year-old that now, who's super into boobies, that's not gonna help him. Be like, hey, those are adult things. You don't get to touch those. Like, but here's why.
Yeah, it's just, and another, a big problem is that another way that it's, again, come into society is there's a lot of instances where a victim is being blamed for sexual assault. An example would be, when they say, well, she was asking for it by wearing that, or she was asking for it by drinking too much, when in reality that's victim blaming. Like, you're blaming a person for someone else's actions. And that's something that's almost like become normal, where people are just like, oh, well, maybe they shouldn't have been doing that. And it's like,
no. So I was on Google Scholar today, literally the articles that we're pulling up from sexuality and culture. 2022, articles are still going on how purity culture beliefs have been linked to rape culture now.
Oh, 100%.
Because there's so much shaming. You're not allowed to talk about it. It's the girl's fault if a man slips up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's created this victim mindset. And now it's created this whole other literal rape culture.
Yeah.
Where it's okay. And it's just like, what the shit? The effects of this that this has now on society today is far beyond anything that you could have learned as a child. And you can't unlearn what you learned. Like, those are your beliefs. Like, you have to work through that trauma of you being in the wrong for having big tits or whatever it is.
Right. That's the thing that's really stuck out to me is it's synonymous to me, purity culture and rape culture, because you're even teaching women, right? Okay, so they're supposed to save themselves for marriage. And, one thing we're going to talk about too is how women are supposed to pleasure their husbands. Like, that's their sole purpose in marriage sexually, is to like please their husband.
Like, that's what you were taught in growing up.
Yes.
That basically that's what you were getting married for.
And you have to keep them happy and satisfied. And if you're not living up to
you can't say no.
No, and that's the thing. There's no consent, where if you do not consent, then you're being rebellious towards your husband, in a sense of like, instead of just like, where if you're just not in the mood to have sex, like, you're just not in the mood, and you're allowed to as a human being be not be in the mood for that. Whereas in that culture,
what you're being taught as a child. In purity culture.
Well, even a teenager is when you really like, they really like put this into your like brain, is that you get married, and whenever your husband asks for it, like, you can't deny him. And that's basically a sin. So it's like, those are certain things where it's like becoming this authoritarian relationship rather than a relationship where it's a partnership. So you're teaching these young girls that there's just no such thing as consent in a relationship.
So one of the podcasts that I was listening to, she was talking about, they did the abstinence teaching in school, and they got stickers that said worth the wait. And they'd, like,
they
like walk around with their stickers, like worth the wait. Like, that is their their badge of honor, that they're worth it. And she's like, the funny part was, like, all the girls had been fucking. They were just doing anal because
it's the penetration of
just the vagina, the golden, like, I was so confused.
The vagina is the end all be all.
These poor girls in high school are just like doing anal because they think that's what's right to not.
Well, because they have to, quote unquote, preserve themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy as fuck. Like, it really is. And like, they also talk about in the podcast, like, how a lot of times, because they don't want their fiancés or their boyfriends to like lose interest in them, they'll like just do like blowjobs and hand jobs and things like that. But
then
anything,
they're not taught anything about it. They don't know anything on
right. I mean, yeah.
That like you're just supposed to get married and be a sex goddess all of a sudden. Like
you get in your bedroom on your wedding night and it's just like what? I am here. Yeah, it's not. Here's the problem. I mean, we've talked about a lot of problems. I mean, this whole thing is a problem, but
my biggest problem right now is my glass is empty.
Oh, you beat me.
You were talking more.
I was.
I'm just drinking and listening and commentating on how fucking whack this shit is.
Okay, so here's the problem.
But I just want to emphasize, this is how Sarah's religion.
Yep.
What was taught.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I will say it was definitely more into the school that I went to. I went to a Christian school. And I will say this was more embedded into who I was then by my school rather than being at home with my parents. Like, this is what I was surrounded by. And I was so, like...
You wanted to earn that sticker.
I did at the same time, but, like, I was still just wanting to, like, please everyone. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And you hadn't been with anyone else when you were married, until you were married.
Right. So it was just like... So here's the problem. It primarily puts almost all the responsibility on the girl or the woman, and they are responsible for other people's actions based on what they wear and how they, I guess you could say, how they act at certain times. So the biggest like thing they used to say is being a stumbling block. It's like if you're making your...
Like you're a stumbling block?
Women can be a stumbling block to men if they have their cleavage out or if they've got like a shoulder showing or like...
Is that why everyone's just so mad about everything in society now?
I don't know. So like dress codes are... I can attest to this being a girl who... When I was 14, I got huge tits and I grew super fast and I felt a lot of shame in that. Like I was like, oh my God, like I have to cover. So like dress codes are applied differently to different body types.
You were covering yours up. I was stuffing my bra with socks. Okay? Put some socks in there. I was trying to...
You're like, I got
titties.
I definitely never...
I was like, trip all over me, stumbling block. That's crazy.
And then find out it's a sock. Surprise!
See, I knew we could make this so fun.
I remember her like, oh my God, no one can look at my boobs. Like, oh my God.
Yes. Sexy, like, are you an ass man or a boob man? That was always my number one question.
Was it?
Yeah. It's like more for ass men, obviously.
Yeah, so basically you were doomed if you had long legs because, oh God, shorts were such a big thing.
You hussy.
If you wore shorts that were 4 inches above your knee, then you were just, so bad. You're a slut.
Muffin.
Yeah, and then also, like, again.
But think about being raised, like how self-conscious you'd be as a teenager.
I was.
Anything.
I was so self-conscious. Anything I put on, I was just like.
Am I going to make someone's dick trip and fall on me today?
It was more of like.
I didn't want attention. Were you ashamed of your own body? Or were you ashamed of were you nervous what your parents would think or what other people would think? Or was it like.
I think definitely I didn't want any attention on, more in middle school, I was more of like, I didn't want any attention on my body. And I didn't want to upset my parents. And
that's like when you're growing through puberty. So
yeah, that was definitely a time where I was way more self-conscious about anything that I wore. Like I hated wearing bathing suits. I hated, wearing shorts sometimes. It was a very awkward stage, and this whole thing didn't help at all.
Okay, I have a story.
Okay.
In junior high, 7th grade locker room, changing for swim, and I remember I'm like changing, and I look over, and Summer Duncan, now Summer Party, was wearing a like G-string thong and like pulls her, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like,
You didn't know what a thong was?
Like, I knew, but like she was 14 years old or I don't even know how old we were. I think it was freshman year. And I was just like, I want one of those. And then there was this whole conversation, and everyone was like, after that, the next week, everyone in the locker room had thongs on that day. We all went to Wet Seal and bought thongs.
Oh my God, Wet Seal. Yes.
Thank you, Summer Party, for starting that trend.
She started that trend.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh. That was the cool thing. It was cool to have a slutty thong, and then you're like bending over, like.
Oh, and it shows. Yes, that was like the big thing. I remember the girls being like showing their thong. Yes, but that was me. I was like, oh, like
the devil.
No, so modest is hottest was like the thing that people would say.
What did you think was hottest? Like you thought men would be attracted to your nunliness?
It's like you're attractive if you're modest, but it's literally contradicting itself. That whole statement contradicts itself. I was like looking at an article, and it was saying how the definition of modest is it means that you are not attracting sexual interest. But being hot means you are catching that sexual interest. So you're literally saying, by saying modest is hottest, you're literally saying that clothing that is not sexually attractive is sexually attractive. Do you get how fucking weird that is?
I mean, I grew up like leave more to the imagination. I don't know.
I do want to say something. If you do prefer to dress modest, that's not wrong. Like either or is not wrong. You know, if you live it as a form of empowerment and a benefit to yourself and not as a service or a protection to the opposite sex, like live your fucking life. Like women need to support women. And so not shaming women either way is how we thrive. And
this is completely like, we're talking about, this is almost like childhood trauma that you were raised, that you're having to. People are going to therapy now.
Oh, yeah.
These days. Mm-hmm. Because they're dealing with all kinds of body shaming issues. And that's led to like sexual dysfunction.
And a lot of eating disorders are also attached to this type of culture. Again, I'm someone who dealt with an eating disorder.
It's linked to a disconnection from your body. It's a body image issue, which causes the anxiety. Right. A whole psychological thing. Sexual shame. Then you have not even touching sexual orientation and gender. You don't even get to experiment or figure that out, or you're not allowed to think about if you want to make out with a girl or a boy when you're 16 years old.
So it's very, and again, that's something I bring up too, is it's not inclusive. This culture is not inclusive. So if you're part of the queer community, if you're gay,
I think it's called like LGBTQ. I don't know. I'm really bad at
LBGTQ. Here we go.
There you go. Okay.
If you are a part of that community, then you that is not even a thing in purity culture.
Well, I would be interested to meet someone that ended up getting married and then finding out that they were gay or or like interested in women, and then you're already in a family and you have kids. Like, how do you? That's crazy, and that's so much trauma, and so much fucking therapy. Like, good Lord,
it's a lot.
And why?
Yeah,
why was this all inflicted? I don't under. Was it more of a religion thing? Was it more of a political thing?
I definitely think it's more of religion, because this is a subculture of Christianity. And it's just something where I think it's a way to control people. So this culture doesn't want to include everyone. It doesn't want to bring love and acceptance, because that's not the point. So like Jenny was just talking about, girls are not taught about their bodies, and boys even. You what?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. You go into this learning that women are not sexual beings until they're married. Like, it literally, all of a sudden, I guess you just like wake up and you're all of a sudden this like sexual person that is supposed to please your husband and know all your body parts.
How terrifying.
There was something I wanted to share, if I can find it real quick. I love this Instagram. It's called Deconstructing Purity Culture, and she speaks my heart. Like, everything she posts, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I just want to share all of it, because if you grew up,
what you grew up in.
If you grew up in this is something where you listen or you're reading it and you're just like, oh my God, like, I get this. So one thing that she posted is, because again, so before I share her post, you're taught that virginity is your highest form of value.
It's like your highest skill set, like your highest, like, if you're not a virgin, they don't want you.
Like you said, the whole thing, I'm worth the wait. So in other words, basically it's putting into the minds of young girls and women that you are not worthy of love if you are not preserving yourself for your future husband.
That's some psychological fucked up shit.
Right? And so it also paints this idea of going into a marriage and it's going to be perfect. There was one song I remember growing up listening to. It was by an artist. Her name was Rebecca St. James. Total 90s Christian artist, if you know what I'm talking about. And the song was called Wait For Me. And it was all about, because she was like a single woman.
So what about guys?
Well, and we'll get to that. I have that on here too. But it was...
We clearly don't share our notes. The reactions are very
It's funny
raw.
because you keep bringing up like something. I'm like, I'm going to get to
You're
that.
like,
I got this.
There. I'm just so confused why people would live their life like would raise their kids like that.
Well, because... You know,
like,
I think a lot of times people are just trying to do the best that they can. But at the same time, I just think sexual education is something that's always been lacking in society. And, you know, it's just something where I think it took responsibility off of parents to educate their kids, and it put more onto the school system, the church,
the government,
youth group, things like that. And they kind of just left it in the hands of these people that were in authority.
Well, and I think about, like, my parents, and I'm trying to think, like, I don't ever remember them sitting down and having a talk with me. It was kind of like they signed that 4th grade permission slip talking about puberty, and they're like, go have fun learning about sex. But, I mean...
Yeah. It's just...
That was the talk. That was them being like, all right, you learned. Have fun. Be safe. Wear a condom. You know?
I mean, I don't remember getting a sex talk ever.
Because you shouldn't even have been thinking about it.
Right. But as I grew up...
Did you take birth control?
No. Because obviously I'm abstinent.
You didn't need to. So I remember having to go to my mom...
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 14 or 15 being like, okay, I need birth control now, because I learned that from a video. Yeah. That's how you don't get pregnant. Besides anal, but they don't teach you anal in those videos in 4th grade, by the way.
God.
So these purity culture girls are creative. Had to do some research for that. And having to ask for birth control. And my mom just being like, okay, be safe.
Yeah, that was never an option in my head, to be on birth control, ever. Like, I never thought that. Ever. Ever. Like, oh, I need to be on birth control. Like, no. Like.
But also, now, side note, And you have a lot to
I think I'm done. I think I'm close to the end
Okay,
here.
but side note, there are a lot of fertility issues now these days, and I wonder if that's linked to girls my age being on birth control early.
Might be.
I haven't done any research on it, but I've actually have that in the back of my mind. People being like thinking that that's part of the reason they're having issues getting pregnant, or
it could be
abortion, because girls are starting to get on birth control at 14,
Yeah.
15. They've been on it for years, and then you get off of it and get married and expect to get pregnant, and like you have all these hormone issues, but
guys should just wear condoms and like, solve the world.
Okay, so that was my next question. Was your husband, when you got married, pure? Like, how do you, like, what if they weren't a virgin? Then it's just like, well, you're a virgin, so it's okay. It doesn't matter.
It's more of a big deal for the woman. Yeah. Hey guys, we're back because we had to refill our drinks. I had to muddle a little bit. We had to put a little bit more. Did you put more tequila in mine? You son of a gun.
I put hot honey in there.
I'm going to put a little bit in here. Okay, we're good now.
I look at the difference in the color of our drinks.
Yeah, you have like... Wait, it's fine. Okay.
I'm just really into it, you know.
We're back. And you know what? We're almost done.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around this whole...
I do want to say a couple things. Like,
Okay.
I want to reiterate.
Sarah's not a prude.
I am not. It took a long time for
But
me.
she's also not a slut.
It took me a long time to get to where I'm at today. Being comfortable with myself and my body. But I will say we're not here. Today's episode is not for us to be attacking whatever someone believes. This is more of a culture. This is not about religion.
An examination.
It's not about a religion, and I am all about freedom. God bless the USA over here. Believe what you want to believe. Do what you want to do. Live your life as long as you're not harming me or telling me what to do. So
you gotta know yourself before you can.
So I just wanted to share this with you because I'm pretty sure someone on the other end of this may have experienced something close to this. And it's something that
it's not.
I'm still to this day 33 years old. I'm still at times having to recover from it. And I've come a long way in the past 3 years when I really started to put in the work. But I had to let go of the idea that like I can be in a committed relationship and I don't immediately have to get married. I can do all these certain things. I can wear,
crop tops,
and it's okay because these are ways that I'm recovering from the way that these beliefs harmed me. And so that's just something I wanted to say real quick. And I do feel like, Jenny, we need to talk about how I had this really cool idea. Like if we ever address this topic again, bringing a guy's perspective on here that grew up in it. Like how cool would that be? Like to have a guy.
That's a good. Do you know any guys that
I do.
were virgins till they got married?
That I don't know. So back to like
purity culture,
men, like boys.
Did they feel? So if they fucked up, say they were like, they saw a girl with a low cut top and they get a boner. I want to know, did they feel like that was that girl's fault? Or are they like, it's fine?
No, it's so okay. But I will answer your question by saying this. Boys are taught that essentially they're like predators and like they have the potential. They have the potential to be dangerous towards women.
This is why purity culture is linked to rape culture.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Instead of just being like, and so like I remember like when we used to do chapel, they would split the guys and the girls up and we would talk about stuff like this. And I remember like guys, they would talk about stuff like this, how to control yourself, how to like, and how to not, you know,
did they use pivotal
sin.
thinking?
How do they not spiral and get a boner?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. If women could see the size of men's boners as men can see the size of women's breasts, I feel like it would be a different society.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm spiraling.
Just a side note there.
Spiraling.
We're not talking about dick sizes, guys.
And if we were, that's allowed.
Yeah, because this is our fucking podcast. Okay. Okay, so back to what I was saying is I feel that boys are taught just as much to suppress their sexuality. Because if you're saying, like, if they do get a boner,
then they
like
have
a predator. They have to, like, oh my God, like, I'm sinning. Like, I'm doing something wrong. And
a normal bodily function for a teenage boy, he's sinning.
Yeah. When, like, we know, like, the, like,
physical anatomy.
The neurological, all of that, like, why a boner happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just, like, you know, we know, so... But you're talking to like young boys who are, again, they're almost on the same side of like they're learning their bodies. And
I want to say they can't control it. I have a 4-year-old that gets a boner. Like, he can't control it. He doesn't know what's going on.
Well, and that's the thing.
But then
it's that shame culture. It's that shame.
And I'm going to teach him that it's bad.
Right. Where we know we just really don't bring attention to it. It is what it is. It's part of, you know, growing up. But again, it's that like controlling nature of this culture where it's making people suppress sexuality and it's stunting people. It's stunting. Like,
it's stunted.
Yeah, it has. And so we talked about it earlier, but like lastly, this culture does not teach consent. And when you get married, you are always to say yes to your husband, like we were talking about earlier. There's just so many toxic behaviors with this culture. And it's something that you were talking about, like you do have to spend time recovering from. And you do have to find resources like a therapist. Like I was talking about also, like, I love that Deconstructing Purity Culture on Instagram. She has such great posts. And those are things that you kind of, they help with the recovery process.
Well, and we've talked about trauma before. Like, trauma is different for everyone. Like, trauma doesn't have to be rape. Trauma doesn't have to be being in a war. Like, you can have your own kind of trauma that you're recovering from. And it's all perspective. And purity culture, one of the things that I was reading, can be super traumatic.
Yeah. And
you really do. And it causes the kind of anxiety and the kind of psychological responses similar to PTSD, similar to, because you can't unlearn what you learned as a child. It's always going to be there.
Yeah. So
you really do have to do a lot of work to go in.
And especially when you're taught that your value is within like how pure you are sexually.
Well, what's mind-blowing to me is the whole thing is about your value being on your virginity, and your highest power is your virginity. But you are not allowed to talk about sex, think about sex, learn about sex, do anything that has to do with sex. Yeah. So it's like this secret mystery, golden vagina key, but you can't know about it. It's like,
you can't know about it.
It's like, I'm sorry, to me, that's like how people view God. This like unknown thing with all of these rules and regulations, stipulations and all this stuff, but we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? How did you live? How do you live like that? Like, your whole psyche growing up is all based around sex. So that your wedding night is like your make it or break it night.
Yeah, and you have to think too about the pressure for a woman and also for a guy on the wedding night. But a woman can't say no, and how your first time can not be pleasurable.
How do you know? So your first time, you're going into your wedding night. I want to be like a great bride. I want to be like bride of the year. I've saved my virginity for you. I'm worthy. You've waited. Like, I'm coming into my wedding night. How do you prepare for that? If you're not allowed to practice and you have to be abstinent, you're not allowed to do sexual things, like.
I know that, and from my experience, people will around you that are married or things like that, they'll start to give you
unsolicited advice.
Well, they start to give you all like,
they
start to give you books. They start to do certain things. So they know you're getting married. So it's like, they know you're like, they'll do certain things like that where it's like, but it's something where, I mean, it's just nerve-wracking. And
yeah, that gives me anxiety thinking about it.
And so when you are in like a sexual relationship,
it's like sex is a taboo, but it's also the most highly valued thing.
It's the
I'm so confused.
It's the craziest
how
thing.
They think that is.
Yeah, because when you are when you're having like sexual intercourse, you want your body to be relaxed. You want to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's supposed to be a pleasurable experience. And for this type of culture, when people go into it, you're just so like, there's so much pressure, and it's just something where it's not, again, it's just not promoting healthy sexual
relationships that are
and
going to last.
Relationships.
That's not a relationship that's going to last.
No. One way I remember growing up, especially in chapels, was we were taught that your virginity, you as a woman, you were like a flower, right? And
shut the fuck up.
And so like, oh, this is so true. So like,
shut
you're a flower, and every time you're having sex outside of marriage, you're attaching yourself to another human, and they're pulling your petals off. And if you go into your marriage night and you have no more petals, you have nothing to offer. Basically. So all these like 13, 14-year-old girls are just like, wow, yeah.
They're like, Mom,
right.
Can we watch Beauty and the Beast again? I need to like see that beautiful rose falling.
Mom, yeah, like, I gotta keep my petals.
Shut the fuck up.
No, I remember that shit. They would do that, and they would tell like us that we had to, again, it's all about
the
that
golden
like
flowers.
The golden flower. It had to be preserved. You had all your petals on your wedding night. So again, this is something that I grew up in.
Wow.
And I'm
trying to think what kind of
like
flower I had on my wedding night. I was already pregnant when I got married, so that tells you about my flower.
You were a prego flower.
That's so crazy. I feel like that's like brainwashing small children. Because that's an extremely vivid picture. Mm-hmm. And like, you don't want to be the tainted.
Well, and of course, if you've listened to the podcast at all, you know that like I have that perfectionist mentality. So I was like, oh my God, well, like I have to fucking preserve my sexuality, my virginity. Like I have to. So I am a product. I was a product, not am, because I've come out of this. I'm recovering. But I've been a product of purity culture. I used to teach girls about this when I used to be a youth group leader. And it's something where I used to want to like blame myself and be like...
Because it's a shameful...
Well, and it's like I told people things that like I realize now. I'm just like... But in the end, I had to realize like I was just living out what I had learned.
Exactly. You're just a child. You don't know these things.
So when I realized that this is just something I don't agree with, I realized that it's tied to rape culture, all of these things. It was like, I can't associate myself with this culture. And you know, I that's one reason too why I got married so young, was because of the sexual aspect of it. I had to save myself for my wedding night. And
you were trying to fuck.
And I was trying to be a good person, and, you know, obviously.
You were trying to be a good person, or you wanted to see what the penis was like?
Oh, God, no. But, like, here's the thing. It's just something that I am recovering from. I'm proud of how far I have come. I literally could give zero fucks now about, like, a lot of things, but there are times where I still feel certain things, like, creeping in my life about this.
I mean, like I said, you can't unlearn what you were taught, and it ties into the most important social, emotional development time of your life.
Yeah.
This is what you were being preached and taught. Right. And there's purity culture trauma, there's religion trauma, there's all of these, you know, sexual dysfunctions now of people or that are shamed, or they're scared, or they're not doing, or whatever it is. And you have to know yourself to be able to grow and to be able to be a real human. And how do you do that when you're in these relationships that aren't based off of, I don't know.
Well, no, I get what you're saying. It's you're not with someone because, you know, you are on a level of just, you love being with them. Like, there is that, but being an adult now, I see where if I'm in a relationship like I am now, there's no, like, pretenses. There's no strings attached. It's just me and a person getting to do life together. There's no, like, rules, regulations. And
you can wear what you want.
I can enjoy my relationship with my boyfriend because we're not stressed out about we have to get married soon and all these certain things.
It's consensual.
It's something that, again, I've really had to work through. The takeaway today, if you are listening and you've dealt with purity culture, that you can heal. And if it has fucked you up in any way, healing really involves becoming friends with your own body, like befriending your body and coming home to yourself. Really getting to know not only your body, but yourself as a person, like without any strings attached, who you are with no rules, regulations. So it's coming to know who you are as a person, and then also letting yourself explore who you are and your body.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. This could include
figure out what you like or don't like.
Going to therapy. Not necessarily sexual therapy.
There are literally groups out there.
Mm-hmm. There's like basically AA meetings.
For women that have gone through this, men that have gone through this, that were raised in this purity culture.
Because there's like
that
a
are
block.
Now traumatized.
There's a block.
It's a mental block,
between
100%.
Them being able to enjoy a pleasurable experience, like a sexual experience.
Yeah, there's so much shame and trauma attached to it.
But I mean,
associated with it.
Healing is something that you can definitely do. And if you're listening and you're like, I didn't grow up in this.
Yeah, if you're listening and you're confused,
you know, I mean, welcome
to the club.
Just like if you would know someone in your life that could have experienced this, just really like be there for them. And if they feel like they want to talk about it to you, just listen. The biggest thing I do want to say is that your value as a human being does not lie in your sexuality or the clothing you wear. Your value lies in the fact that from the moment you were born, You had all you ever needed.
Listen to your inspirational tone.
Yes, I'm here for this. Can you tell I'm passionate about this?
So
it's so true though. And we have to unlearn. Even if you didn't grow up in purity culture, we still have to unlearn things
You can't unlearn something. That is the thing. Is you've learned it. Now you have to work through it in your brain and train yourself to think differently and act differently. And that's where the therapy and all of that comes in.
So so what I'm trying to say is that is that
I'm being analytical.
No, it's good because we got both sides.
You can't unlearn it, but there are other things you can do.
Just having that realization of all you've ever needed since the day you were born. That nothing brings you value other, like, you're not valuable because of you did this or you accomplished this.
Your vagina flower or whatever.
You had no petals picked on your sexual or on your wedding night. There were no petals picked on your sexual encounter.
You had a full sunflower.
You were a sunflower on your wedding night, girl. No one gives a fuck, okay?
Look at this. I got white roses today, so I'm just going to use this as my example.
So back to what I was saying.
This is what Sarah's vagina looks like.
Oh! Okay. You are whole as you are. You have the ability to make your life as fucking epic as you possibly want to. Don't live to the standards of others and live by what makes you feel fulfilled, and don't accept anything less than that. Know the worth that you have, and don't settle.
Your worth is not. Wait, what's the sticker?
You're not worth the wait.
You're not worth the wait. You do whatever the fuck you want.
You don't have to wait. No one gives a fuck, honestly. Like, yeah.
Don't wait. You do you. And just to add to that.
Okay.
Second person this week. So they were listening to our podcast. I was at the pool with my kids today.
Uh-huh.
And she was so sweet. And she came up and was talking to me and was like, oh, I listened to your podcast. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. You know, I felt very inspired and happy. And at that moment, I knew that we're doing something.
We're doing something.
She said, oh, it's so funny. I love listening to you guys. You vibe very, very well. Why did you decide to make a podcast? And I hate this fucking question, but it ties into today. This is our outlet. Like, This is what makes us feel good.
Listen, I cried at the tire shop today. I needed this outlet.
I cried. My husband went to the store twice today for Kiwis.
For our stupid fucking...
Okay? That is why we do this. Because this is our healing.
They literally were like, oh, you need 4 new tires. And I was like, oh!
You cried. I cry there all the time. It's fine. My husband found me in a pile of laundry crying because we didn't have Kiwis.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, we're about to start our period, but it's fine.
We're synced. But that's what I'm saying. Again, it goes back to you have to buddy system. Find yourself an outlet. It doesn't have to be therapy. It doesn't have to be fucking yoga. Start a podcast. Start a blog. Do something that gives you the outlet to be able to talk about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of what I explained to this woman at the pool today who listens to our podcast. And I was just like, we just came from different backgrounds and we just feel comfortable talking about it. And it's not to shame you it's because I genuinely want the knowledge, and
we have the capacity to learn from each other through this outlet.
Yeah.
And through our friendship, ultimately. But this is we had the resources to do this. And we took it upon ourselves to be like, you know what? I bet you someone can relate to Jenny, and I bet you somebody can relate to me. And
Yes, 100. That's why
we'll entertain you on the way. Thank you again for listening today. We really hope that you felt some kind of inspiration by listening today, in one way or another.
Don't forget to click the link in our bio.
And Instagram. Don't do it, or don't do it. Do it. Please do it.
We have a feedback survey, so you can give us feedback. We have a TAWE, so you can submit that's a whole episode topic.
Yeah, because we're going to start brainstorming now on season 2.
Yeah, and we're going to start having guests. So I actually have been thinking of a couple. I had some really good ones. So I'm going to start reaching out to some of you all who listen.
Yay.
And we want to get to know you guys better. And we also want to be able to talk about topics that you guys actually give a shit about. So
yes,
hopefully this one was informative.
Thank you all for listening. This is Naked with Socks, where we assess the mess with finesse. Bye, guys.